Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy, people dealing with drama, cheating, lies, breakups, and even revenge. Some stories are wild, some are emotional, but all of them will keep you watching. If you like real talk and real situations, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. This is Crazy Pepper Revenge, where the stories get spicy.
You like stealing Fiancee's homewrecker? Here's your prize.
2 weeks before my wedding, my fiancée Tasha sat me down in our small living room with the most ridiculous request I've ever heard. She paced nervously behind our coffee table, arms crossed tight over her chest. "I just need something more," she said, her voice quivering with unfamiliar urgency. "I've been thinking about it for months. I don't want to pretend anymore." I looked up from the worn-out couch, drumming nervous fingers against my knee. "You're saying you want to bring other people into our relationship? You think that's going to strengthen what we have?" She pressed a hand to her temple like warding off a headache. "Yes, I know it sounds strange, but we're so close to our wedding. We've only ever slept with each other, and I'm terrified of feeling trapped or that I missed out. I feel like I need to expand." I stared at her long enough that the dust motes in the afternoon light seemed to slow. "And you want me to be on board? Do you realize how that sounds? 2 weeks before we get married, you start talking about sleeping with other men." "I'm not talking about flings and dirty motel rooms," she said, frustration edging her tone. "People do this. Open relationships. Polyamory, it's a real thing. It saves couples from jealousy or resentment. Or it introduces it," I said quietly, with a grim half-smile. Her eyes narrowed. She'd always been strong-willed, even arrogant. "So you won't even consider it? Don't I get a say in how I envision our marriage?" I swallowed back anger. "When you say open, you mean you want the freedom, but you don't want me to do the same, right? That's what you implied last night." She lifted her chin, letting her thick black hair tumble behind her shoulders. "Because it's different for women. If you start sleeping around, you might see it as a new beginning and ditch me for some new fling. But if I do it, it's just a little exploration. I'm in this for us. I love you, Vance. I just need more." "Do you hear yourself?" I said, rubbing my temples. "You're basically telling me you get to wander outside the lines without consequence, and you expect me to just stand there nodding with some goofy grin on my face." "It's not like that," Tasha insisted, though her voice shook. "It's about me feeling free. You've always told me how confident I am, how I shouldn't hide who I am. This is who I am, Vance. I need a life that doesn't weigh me down." "Marriage weighs you down?" I asked with a bitter laugh. She put her hands on her hips. "Is it so wrong to want everything? To have a husband who's there for me while also keeping some excitement for myself?" "Plenty of people would say yes, it's wrong," I said flatly. "But I guess those same people would tell me I shouldn't marry you." Her gaze flashed with anger. "What are you saying?" I stood up abruptly. "I'm saying that if we're even discussing open relationships right now, we shouldn't be heading down the aisle." "You can't just call off the wedding," Tasha said, stepping into my path. "My parents have spent thousands. Yours have too." "My mother will eliminate me if I ruin this. So that's all it is? You care more about how your parents will react than about us?" She jabbed me in the chest. "That's not fair. I'm trying to be honest with you, to share what's in my mind. Isn't that what you've always wanted?" "I never realized your ugly truth would be that you can't handle monogamy," I said. "But you know what? Fine. Let's see if I can handle it." The next few days became a bizarre dance of avoidance. Tasha still planned wedding details while I pretended to nod along, a quiet storm raging inside me. But her behavior became increasingly suspicious. She'd come home late with flimsy excuses about extra work hours. I noticed her blouse was unbuttoned, her hair messy, and she wore expensive perfume she never used around the house. One evening, she stammered out excuses about overtime, but she had an odd flush and unfamiliar confidence that made me wonder if she was hiding more than fantasies. "How about we go out for dessert tonight?" I suggested casually. She seemed startled. "I'm exhausted. I need a shower and bed." After she disappeared into the bathroom, I went straight to her purse and found a fancy business card. "Martin Blackwood, Regional Director, Everest Technologies. On the back, in Tasha's handwriting, had a great time. My heart hammered. So she's not just daydreaming, she's actually doing it. Over the next days, I paid closer attention. Tasha came home wearing expensive perfume, excused herself during phone calls, and mentioned Martin constantly. He's so innovative, she'd say with a proud smirk. He's teaching me so many new things about sales and marketing. I became obsessed with catching her red-handed. If she wanted an open relationship so badly, why hide it? My moment came when her phone rang while she was in the bedroom. The screen lit up with Martin calling. I answered without greeting. Tasha, Martin said, voice low and amused. I'm still thinking about earlier. You know, the way you said you're done with that fiancé nonsense? God, it's exhilarating. I want to see you tomorrow. Let's do it at my place this time. Crimson rushed from my face. I couldn't speak, transfixed by the blatant admission. Martin paused. Tasha, you there? I ended the call just as Tasha walked in, looking alarmed. Vance, did you answer my phone? I sure did, I said, heat flushing my cheeks. Martin was calling. He's quite bold, isn't he? She blanched, mouth opening soundlessly. Finally, she sputtered. I can explain. Martin's my boss. He's been helping me. Helping you cheat on me, I said with a bitter laugh. So, that's the big push for this open relationship? You've already started it on your own. She tried placing a hand on my arm, but I yanked away. It's not exactly what you think. I thought it was supposed to be an option. Something we'd talk about. What garbage? I said. You're already messing around with him. That's not an open relationship, Tasha. That's good old-fashioned cheating. Her face twisted with anger. Don't judge me like you're some saint. I told you how I felt, but you brushed me off. You're the one who's always put your job at the sanitation plant above me. Well, Martin sees my potential. He's not content to let me waste away as some bored wife. So you wanted to explore your passions with him? Yes, she snapped. And now I realize I shouldn't have bothered telling you anything. We could have gotten married and I'd do my thing on the side. At least that way everyone would be happy. The coldness hit me like a physical blow. You know something? You and Martin deserve each other. I don't deserve to be judged by a man who can't see beyond his own ego. I wanted a bigger life, not a monotonous treadmill. I grabbed my jacket. We're done. I'm calling off the wedding. You can explain to your parents why the big day is off. As I stepped outside, my heart hammered with hurt and fury. But I knew I didn't just want to break things off. I wanted revenge. Tasha's arrogance burned in my mind all night. Images of her with Martin gnawed at me. His smug face, expensive suits, luxurious black SUV. I'd seen pictures of it, a pristine monster with tinted windows and custom leather seats. By dawn, I was searching property records for Martin's address. Martin lived in a gated development in the upscale part of town. My job with the sanitation company gave me access to septic pump trucks used to pump waste from restaurants and portable toilets. The stench was unforgettable, but after a while you learned to harness it. I spent days gathering intelligence. I discovered Martin was hosting an out-of-town business partner Friday night, meaning he'd be out for hours. I planned meticulously. I wanted something so disgusting and humiliating that they'd recoil at my name forever. Thursday night, Tasha found me packing boxes. My parents are furious you called off the wedding. They're saying you owe them for the money. I think you should help pay them back. You want me to pay for a wedding you destroyed? I gave her a cold stare. She rolled her eyes. Don't play the sufferer. You're the one who refused to adapt. You were always so timid, so content with your job pumping waste. Maybe that's all you ever wanted. But I want more, and Martin gets it. I took steps toward her, anger radiating. Enjoy your fancy boss. Just don't come crying when it blows up, she scoffed. It won't blow up. Martin is 10 times the man you are. Sure, I said softly. You both deserve each other. Friday night arrived. The sanitation truck I'd borrowed was loaded with the foulest cargo imaginable, sludgy human waste from a restaurant with repeated plumbing issues. The odor was so awful I had to keep windows open while driving, but I didn't mind. I drove across the city under darkness. By 10 p.m., I reached the gated community. The security guard gave the truck a cursory glance, assuming routine maintenance. I mumbled about an emergency leak and he waved me through. Martin's mansion stood at the end of a curved driveway with manicured hedges and ornate lamps. The modern facade had floor-to-ceiling windows revealing pristine marble and glass interiors. Parked in the driveway was his gorgeous black SUV, shiny, freshly waxed, absolutely perfect. I ground my teeth remembering Tasha gushing over its plush seats. We'll see how plush it is after tonight. I uncoiled the thick industrial hose, pulled a scarf over my mouth against the suffocating stench, and flipped the valve to reverse from suction to outflow mode. Here we go, I muttered, aiming at the SUV's rear panel. A vile, viscous mass of sewage erupted with a wet thwack, splattering across the shiny paint. Pungent waves of disgusting lumps formed grotesque shapes trickling down the sides. Within seconds, the SUV's polished perfection was obliterated under thick, reeking human waste. I moved methodically around the vehicle, feeling sick triumph with each cascade of sludge. I covered the wheels, windshield, roof, everything. Filthy torrents dripped onto cement, leaving swirling pools of rancid liquid. But I wasn't finished. Using a crowbar from the truck, I pried at a side window until I heard cracking wood and tinkling glass. I created an opening big enough to slip the hose inside, then opened the valve again. A macabre waterfall of sewage exploded into Martin's pristine living room, splashing walls, furniture, and marble tile. "That's what you get for thinking you can humiliate me," I whispered with savage glee. That's when headlights flickered across the driveway. A dark coupe pulled up, and Martin stepped out wearing an expensive suit. His eyes instantly widened at the sewage truck and foul liquid streaming into his house. He let out a strangled cry of disbelief. "What the hell? Stop! Are you insane?" I strode forward, crowbar in hand. When he recognized me, panic crossed his face. "You slept with my fiancée and you ask if I'm insane?" I laughed viciously. "Guess what? It wasn't an arrangement. She lied. You lied. Now you're both going to see what it means to drown in the filth you created." He lunged toward the truck to stop the flow, but I swung the crowbar to block him, metal clanging with sparks. "Get away or I'll smash your head in." Martin stepped back, face contorting with fear. "You're out of your mind. I'll call the cops." I pointed the crowbar at him. "Go for it. Then I'll tell them about how you seduced my fiancée. How you coerced her at work. Maybe your board of directors would love that scandal." His gaze flickered with uncertainty as we both glanced at the living room window, where shimmering sludge continued spewing, flooding marble floors. The stench and destruction were beyond belief. That's when another car screeched around the corner, Tasha's sedan. She slammed the brakes, leaped out wearing a tight skirt and heels.
"Oh my God, Vance, what did you do?" she gasped, nearly retching at the smell. I turned, adrenaline coursing. "You asked for excitement. Is this exciting enough for you, Tasha?" She stared in horror at the black SUV smothered in dripping sewage.
"You're insane. I never wanted it to go like this." "It doesn't matter what you wanted," I hissed. "You disrespected me, made me look like a fool sneaking around with him." Her face twisted with indignation. "You have no right to do this." "Martin's going to sue you for everything." "I wouldn't be so sure," Martin snapped, glaring at her. "You told me your fiancé was a weak nobody. Now he's threatening to expose me to the board. Do you realize what you've dragged me into?" She whirled on him, outraged. "You're blaming me? You were the one who insisted on hooking up in your office. You kept pushing me to break it off with Vance." I let out a derisive laugh. How sweet. Turning on each other already. What happened next was absolutely beautiful. They screamed at each other while standing in pools of sewage, Martin's $1 million house filling with waste behind them. The destruction was complete. His SUV buried under inches of chunky sewage, his living room flooded with filth that would smell for months. Both looked ready to vomit from the overwhelming stench. Martin tried rushing me one final time, but I aimed a fierce glare at Tasha. "Tell him to step back, or he'll get worse." She frantically grabbed his arm. "Don't. He's not bluffing." I climbed back in the truck and reversed out of the driveway. In my rearview mirror, I watched them standing in swirling muck, mouths covered, expressions contorted in absolute shock and revulsion. Martin's once gleaming SUV was drenched in sewage, and from the broken window a steady trickle continued flooding his sleek living room. I felt a thunderous pounding in my chest, triumph, disgust, burning adrenaline. The reek clung to me like a second skin, but I didn't care. I'd unleashed something vile and unstoppable in the name of revenge. Later, Tasha texted calling me a fool and threatening lawsuits over wedding costs. But I had recordings of their affair, evidence of Martin's misuse of power, Enough blackmail material to keep them both quiet. Did I feel satisfaction? No, just an odd, hollow calm. But they'd learned what it meant to cross me. I'd been humiliated, and in one horrific night, I'd made sure they felt that same humiliation tenfold. No apologies, no second chances. They deserved each other and everything they got.